Hello and welcome to another episode of the Jack and Jack Show. Jack Stradley alongside me. And Jack, I think for the second time this season, we have recorded a video where Fulham have been sitting 7th in the league.
Yeah, that is correct. It must be a lucky charm. Hopefully, Joe Santon can have a couple more weeks absent, and who knows?
No, let's give Sanson his time off, and then he'll be back soon, I suppose. And we've got another game to talk about in Leicester, which is tomorrow night. But before that, let's recap on Southampton. I did the quick take with Stephen, so I gave my 2 pence on it. So Jack, what a game, what a winner, what an occasion.
Yeah, I remember speaking to you a couple of days ago and being very confident that we could, that it'd be quite a comfortable game, that we would win convincingly, and it was anything but that. To be perfectly honest with you, I wouldn't say impressed by Southampton because I didn't think they particularly offered a lot, but I was impressed with how they not controlled the midfield, but they made it certainly difficult for us. I thought James Ward-Prowse, barring the own goal, had a really good game and was on Harrison Reed and really he struggled to get into the game. But it was an okay performance, I guess. I mean, Bernd Leno kept us in the game with a couple of really good saves, particularly in the first half. But look, if you're going to be where we are, you're not going to be at it every game and be controlling every game the same way that we were against Crystal Palace. And sometimes we're going to have to grind out results. And thankfully for Fulham, that's what we've done.
Yeah, it was like a different sort of performance to the one against Crystal Palace, albeit of course they went down to 9 men and we had the control over the game, but we did not have the control of the game against Southampton. And what I want to put to you is the fact that we went on. Sorry about the WhatsApps. The fact that we went on to win the game without playing at our best. Does that show the resilience in this Fulham team, or did it show the fragility of the Southampton team? Because basically across the whole season, Southampton have lacked points, lacked goals, and put in some really poor performances. Arguably, yes, 2 days ago was one of the more positive performances from Southampton, but yet they still come out with 0 points. But is that down to us being just that little bit more tenacious, or Southampton being, poor at the back?
I think that's an indication of, where we are as a team right now. Marco Silva likes to instill the mentality of kind of keep going, attacking, and this and everything. No matter how many goals ahead we are, we were drawing until up until the 88th minute. But I think it's a credit to Fulham and how Fulham are playing at the moment. And, Southampton, yes, they're not in the best run of form, but there's, the new manager bounce, whatever you can call it. Obviously, it's not really panned out the way they wanted to so far. But, it's certainly a banana skin that we could have easily slipped up on the other day. And I think the fact that we didn't, albeit from a late João Palhinha goal, I think the fact we didn't shows really that we are kind of made of sterner stuff, and that, this Fulham side, its ceiling is kind of whatever it wants to make it.
Yeah, that's a good segue into what we're going to come on to a little bit later. Just more on the Southampton game. They did have their chances, like you say, Shea Adams, once they equalised as well. I don't know if you want to talk through the James Ward-Prowse free kick, because me and Stephen spoke about it yesterday in Leno's positioning and the wall, and I just want to know whether you thought that Leno could have stepped more centrally before the free kick was taken, because it seemed like Ward-Prowse had made up his mind of where he was going, and Leno just sort of went, here's the space, now find it, and he couldn't quite scramble across his goal line to keep the ball out.
Yeah, look, James Ward-Prowse, obviously his game is free kicks. He's absolutely incredible, arguably the best, if not one of the best in the Premier League at that scenario. And Bernd Leno gifted him an opportunity with the amount of space that he provided for him. Unfortunately, I wasn't at the game. I was watching it on a stream, and I remember seeing the replay of it. My first initial thought was, from the goal, you know what, fair play, that's what James Ward-Prowse does. But when I look back on the replay, I wasn't particularly convinced by Leno's positioning. I think he probably should have been slightly more over, but on the flip side, in terms of Bernd Leno, as we've already mentioned, he made some crucial saves in the game, and arguably is as much of a reason why we ended up with 3 points as those that scored the goals.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and criticize Bernd Leno. His saves alone this season is one of the reasons why we're sitting so high in the league. And we're recording this on the Monday, the bank holiday Monday, I believe. And Chelsea yesterday drew with Nottingham Forest, which means that even after, I know Chelsea have another game in hand, and we obviously got to play them twice. We're coming up. We're ahead of Chelsea at the moment, and obviously Brentford play tonight against Liverpool. It's stunning. Even going into the new year, if someone had told you you'd be ahead of Chelsea and Brentford in the Premier League, no Fulham fan would believe that, would they, Jack?
No, I'm absolutely amazed that we are where we are. I'm absolutely amazed, to be honest with you, that Chelsea are where they are. I can't claim to say I watched the Nottingham Forest game yesterday. I was at work, but I looked at the stats, particularly if you look at the second half stats. Nottingham Forest absolutely battered them, and Chelsea were really dreadful. I spoke to a couple of Chelsea fans, and they were really not optimistic in terms of the squad that they've got now isn't good enough. Some people are pointing the finger at Graham Potter, but I kind of think that's slightly harsh on Chelsea, to be honest with you. I think that Graham Potter is a good manager, and that Chelsea team just isn't performing to the benefit of obviously Fulham. And I mean, we can talk about those teams if you want to. Tottenham obviously lost against Aston Villa as well. Not that I'm saying we're in anywhere near a fight with Tottenham Hotspur. It's certainly worth a mention that all the time these teams keep dropping points and performing poorly. If Fulham can keep up this level, I mean, we've got a really tricky run of 5 games now. We've got Leicester away, Chelsea at home, Newcastle away, Tottenham at home, and then Chelsea away. That's a really tough run of fixtures. But, if we can keep plodding away and, see where we are after those 5 games, I think that's going to be a real tell of whereabouts we actually are in the league after these next 5.
To be fair, the points tally we're on at the moment, not that we'll want to do this, not that Marco Silva will be thinking about this, but it does sort of lean towards us maybe becoming a little bit, if we do drop points here and there, if we don't pick up loads of points in the next 5 games, it's not disastrous. But then again, I don't want to become complacent and start thinking we're already there. We're because we're not. I mean, we still need 15 more points, and this is what we're going to come on to now. Just final question from me: 2 more goals from 2 more set pieces. This is unheard of at Fulham. We never got a goal from a corner in recent times, but since Marco Silva's come in last season, this season, every corner opportunity, apart from that corner we did in the second half where we played it short and lost the ball because we played it. It was remarkable how many goals are coming from set pieces, honestly.
Yeah, it is. I remember actually speaking back to when I was on here before after the Nottingham Forest game. I remember speaking to you after Tosin's header to make it 1-1 in that game, and saying the fact that we are able to create so many chances from set pieces and be so clinical from set pieces is going to produce us so many more points with the expectation of staying up. We've struggled a lot in the past, not only just with scoring goals, but let alone creating chances from corners, from free kicks, and that problem is completely alleviated now under Marco Silva, the way that he's got them drilled. And, I'm just so pleased. And like you said, every time we have a corner, I'm thinking, beforehand, I was thinking, well, nothing's going to come from this in past years. But now I'm kind of thinking, this is a real opportunity to score a goal.
And it's not like the first goal, we whacked the ball in the box and someone got their head to it. We keep doing this, play it to the edge of the area for the volley. And this time it obviously came off Joe Ward-Prowse and went in the back of the net, but it came off. And even the Harrison Reed goal against Aston Villa, I think was from like a second phase of a corner where the ball fell to him and he just lashed it home. So these opportunities are coming, even if we don't put the ball directly in the box. I said to Stephen, I can't believe that they haven't picked up on it. If you've got a man on the edge of the box, but then again, it's clever because if you've got a man on the edge of the box and a defender's thinking, oh, I know what they do from set pieces, that might drag a man out of the box to mark the man on the edge of the box, which then leaves another man free in the box. It's just what a complicated sequence of sentences that was. Right. So happy days, 7th place, 25 points. If someone had told me that in August, I'd have been like, you're joking. Like, this is ridiculous. So what happens now? Because what I found really interesting from my seat the other day is that at 1-1, fans were getting really, really frustrated. And I can understand why. I mean, Dan James was poor. Fans want to win games, right? But I sort of was like thinking to myself, if we draw this, it's not the end of the world. Why is everyone getting so angry? But is it fan expectation has just shifted? Even before the win the other day, the win against Palace, everyone was like, okay, Fulham are back. Like, we're back from the break and, we've got back to a win. But do you think now that fans are starting to go, well, we're definitely going to stay up, which again is not a guarantee. We're only on 25 points. And fans are starting to think, oh, we could push for Europe. So like every game where we don't get 3 points is going to be like a massive hindrance towards our European charge for this season and next season. I'm just thinking, come on, we stay up first and then we think about where we are. But what do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think in terms of the fan expectation, we're sitting in the top half of the table playing the team who were bottom of the league, really struggling at home. On paper, it's a game that, as fans, you would expect to win. And it's a game that me and you expected us to win quite convincingly. So the fact that it didn't play out like that for long periods is obviously quite frustrating for those obviously in attendance. But I agree, one step at a time. It's all well and good me and you joking about the Europa Conference League, as we seem to do practically every day now. But in reality, if we're going to do that, it's a long way ahead. And I do think that while we are good, I don't think we're there yet. I had a look at someone put out a graph in terms of if we wanted to finish in 7th, the average points you need, the results we need to get from that. I think it came out to we need to pick up 32 points from the last 21 games, give or take, something along those lines, which is a big ask. That's a big ask, especially when you consider we've got over half the season to go. As mentioned, we've got these 5 games now, which on paper are very, very tricky games. And I think that we will, unfortunately, start to drop off. Not trying to be too negative. I think we will start to drop off, but because that's just the nature of football. And I don't think we're necessarily blessed with a lot of squad depth. I know we've still got January to come, and we'll probably recruit well in January. But I don't think we are necessarily blessed with squad depth. And all the time that we've got that, I think that will come to the detriment of Fulham. But I mean, bit of perspective, if you would have offered Fulham fans 17th in August, you'd have taken it and run.
We're taking it.
So if we
had 2 fit centre backs before Liverpool.
Yeah. So if we drop off and finish, even if I don't think we're going to, but if we drop off and finish, I don't know, 15th, I don't think that's going to happen. So what? That's still an unbelievable season for Fulham. I think we'll probably end up being around the 12th, 13th mark, which I think is still an absolutely ludicrous season when you consider, on paper, just everyone was writing us off.
Yeah, the narrative was the same as it was the season before and the season before. Fulham are up. That's them down next season. I mean, it's boring. It's boring stuff. But it does annoy me slightly because we are sitting in 7th. And because Newcastle have been incredible, which, credit to them, and Brighton have been very good, and Brentford have been very good, Fulham aren't getting the I mean, I say it every week, Fulham aren't getting the plaudits. But to be fair, I haven't been, listening to every single podcast under the sun. So maybe we are, and I'm just unaware of it. Let's just have a look at the table here. I was speaking to Luke about this, my brother, yesterday. And obviously we're sitting on 25 points. Happy days. And because of Aston Villa's win yesterday against Spurs, there is a little bit of a cut-off point now between 12th and 13th, where the gap is now to 4 points. So Leicester, who sit on 17 points, below them are Leeds, Bournemouth, Everton, West Ham, and in the bottom 3, Forest, Wolves, Southampton. I mean, we are now 11 points above the relegation zone, which is crazy. But it does seem like, how every season you sort of have that relegation pack. We're nowhere near it. We're above. We're top, almost top of the pack that are not in it, because obviously you've got the top six and then we're seventh. So I think that, the likes of Brighton, Brentford, Palace, and Villa, along with ourselves, will be okay. I think Leicester will be okay as well. And obviously we play them tomorrow. We'll get onto it. But we're just nowhere near that relegation threatened. I looked at the market. Fulham are 26-1 to go down at this, and that went from 11-1 after the Palace game, 1-0 Celtic already. Wow. To 26-1 after the game against Southampton. It's amazing. So, Jack, finally, your thoughts on just everything right now. Just where's your head at with Fulham?
I couldn't be more relaxed about Fulham if I tried, to be perfectly honest. I'm more relaxed now than I was March, April last season, where I was like, we were losing games, like we lost to Coventry and we lost to West Brom and we drew Barnes, and I was a bit like, we're still going to go up, it's fine.
Yeah. It's a similar mindset, isn't it?
I'm more relaxed now. Obviously, we'll get on to Leicester, and I obviously want us to beat Leicester tomorrow. But if we don't, I should be frustrated initially. But once I'm back on the coach, heading back towards Motspur Park, it'll be a bit, do you know what? We've allowed ourselves this cushion and this leeway. And it's so nice. So nice to be able to go to games. And yes, you want to win them, but you don't feel, I don't know about you, but I don't feel nervous going to Fulham at the moment. At the start of the season, we're playing games like obviously Brentford, Brighton, Forest, even Leeds, Villa, playing those sort of games. It's like, we do need to pick up points here. And while obviously we want to keep up that form, as we mentioned, if we drop off now slightly, it's as frustrating as it is, it's really not the end of the world.
Yeah. I just remembered like the mindset of myself when I watched like Fulham v Liverpool and Fulham v Wolves, the first two games of the season, and you're just begging for that time to go just so we can get away with a point. Especially even Wolves, where I just felt we were under the cosh all the time. We didn't play very well. They missed big chances. And of course, we missed the penalty ourselves. And we should have won the game. But I just remember thinking, just get us out of here with a point and I'm happy. But now, it's like if it's 1-1 against Leicester in like the 90th minute and nothing's really happening, the game's sort of petering out, I'm just going to be like, you know what? 7 points from 3, would have taken that. Even if we lose tomorrow, which again, I don't want to happen. Like you say, I'm not going to be crying myself to sleep about it. And obviously the circumstances of each game, the nuances of each game are different. Like let's say we got denied 2 goals by VAR, you'd feel aggrieved and you'd feel upset. But maybe the next day you won't feel as angry as you might if you were sitting 18th, 19th, 20th in the table. Before Leicester, final question. The January transfer window is open, and Fulham might dip into the market. We've already seen the likes of Cedric Suarez linked, Pablo Mahi linked, and Abdoulaye Doucouré. But it's all kind of gone quiet on that front, maybe apart from Cedric Suarez. It looks like it could be done fairly soon. Your thoughts on what kind of window we could have?
It's intriguing. I think as a whole, we're going to have a window where it's effectively plugging gaps. I don't think we're going to be signing players who are necessarily going to be starting lots of games of football. As you mentioned in right back, you mentioned Cedric Suarez. There's also the guy from Roma, I think is Karsdorp or something like that. The Dutch bloke. There was some Italian report yesterday that they're willing to sell him to us for 4 years installment of 2.5 million, so 10 million euros as a whole. I can't say I know much about him, to be perfectly honest with you. But either way, both of those would be backups to Kenny Tete, assuming that Kevin and Babu will probably go out on loan, you'd imagine, in January. I imagine we'll also get another midfielder in and probably see Josh Onoma go elsewhere if that's the case. And then there's also, the potential as well of Mark Silva obviously had his press conference today, and there were slight murmurings about if we're going to send Dan James back to Leeds. I'm not entirely sure we'll do that, to be honest with you. Obviously, Manuel Solomon, obviously we're going to get onto Leicester. He is fit for the game tomorrow, but we don't know what his quality is going to be, and we could end up needing an additional player. So I'm not entirely sure that will happen. But I think as a whole, we will recruit, but I'm not expecting us to break the bank and sign an absolute world beater this month.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's all about sensible business. The squad is in good shape. We know our system. We know our best 11. So yeah, we'll just see. Let's go on to Leicester. Just having a look at their lineup from the last game against Liverpool. Obviously, they lost to 2 own goals from Wout Fass. They had no Vardy, no Tielemans. They were both on the bench. They played the likes of Sumare in midfield. Dewsbury Hall was playing also as well. He got the goal. What do we expect from Leicester? Because they came into the World Cup on good form. They beat Everton 2-0 and West Ham 2-0. And since the restart, they lost 3-0 to Newcastle and 2-1 to Liverpool. Both very tough opponents, but an even tougher opponent in Fulham tomorrow night.
Yes, it's a tricky one for them. I've written my Leicester preview, which is going on the Fulhamish website at some point today. So I've had a little bit of a look at Leicester and how they play and how they'll stylistically how they will run. And it's very, very intriguing with Leicester, even in the games where they play, where they might think they'll get a result. They still like to sit relatively deep and they don't like to bring many players forward. I had a look at average positions in games that they won, the likes of Everton, Wolves, Forest. And 6 or 7 men, their average position is in their own half. They don't like to bring too many players forward, and I think they're very reliant on the counter-attack. The Jamie Vardy, who's normally ever reliable, he's not really hit the form this season. I think he's only scored 1 goal in the league. Patson Daka's scored the most goals as a striker, with most of their goals coming from Barnes and Maddison, who I think between them have got 17 goal contributions. So they're going to be the two who to really focus on tomorrow night. I think it's going to be very intriguing. I think we're going to kind of see a very similar style to how Palace operated before they went down to 10 men in terms of, both sides are going to try and battle for the ball, but I think we will control a lot of the possession, obviously play it from side to side. And who knows? Obviously, we have to be wary of the quality that they've got on the counter, especially as we mentioned, the likes of Maddison, Harvey Barnes, and then obviously if Tielemans plays, he'll want to bring the ball forward. Dewsbury Hall's quite a good player as well. But I'm sure we'll go into score predictions. I am quietly confident that Fulham can get a result.
I agree. I'm just looking at, I use Flash Score to sort of get team news before team news is really out. And it says that under will not play. Well, to be fair, actually, maybe take this with a pinch of salt because it says under will not play for Fulham is Manor Solomon, which obviously isn't true. But for Leicester, it's Johnny Evans, James Justin, James Maddison, Ricardo Pereira, and Dennis Pratt, with questionable being Patson Daka as well after a muscle injury. Take that how you want to take it. I'm not sure we'll see tomorrow night at 6:45 p.m. But I do think that we can go there and win for a second time in a row at the King Power. I mean, we did it under Parker, different system, different players. But when it comes to this Fulham team, which of course, let's get onto team news now. What happens? Because we've now played back-to-back games unchanged. Do you a third game? It's interesting how Harry Wilson didn't get a shout at all against Southampton. Dan James came on, arguably played absolutely terribly, won a penalty, and that was all that happened for Dan James. But obviously, Willian is playing very, very well. Bobby De Cordova-Reid is still playing very, very well. Is there any room for anyone to come in at this moment in time?
I think assuming that everyone is fit and ready and no one's, a little bit fatigued, I wouldn't change it again, to be honest with you. Obviously, will we make 1 or 2 changes because, this is the 3rd game in 8 days? Possibly. I wouldn't necessarily be shocked if we saw Harry Wilson come in for someone like Bobby Reid. I wouldn't be. I'm not saying I want it, but I wouldn't necessarily be shocked if that happened. I think Manor Solomon will feature. I don't think he'll start. It's obviously his first game back. I think he'll probably get a bit of a cameo off the bench and then start against Hull in the cup. But Yeah, assuming that everyone is fit, which it seems to be, and no one's fatigued or anything like that. Um, I wouldn't go around chopping and changing just because we played slightly below average against Southampton.
Yeah, I think our performance level was just below par. We can obviously pick that back up against the Leicester team tomorrow night. And of course, our next Premier League game after Leicester is not until the 12th against Chelsea. So we can play a full strength team, rest everyone versus Hull, and play like Onamar, maybe Chalobah and Solomon, get him some minutes. Vinicius, I'm sure we'll get into it, next week. But yeah, I would keep things exactly the same. I would like to see Harry Wilson get some minutes. I don't really know why he hasn't really got any minutes as of. I know he came on against Palace, didn't he? Very, very briefly. But maybe I'm saying that now in hindsight because Dan James was so poor against Southampton. It was quite remarkable how many times he lost the ball. I did feel sorry for him because every time he got the ball, there was like a groan, and I was like, that must be absolutely horrible to hear. Considering he doesn't even play for our club as well. He's on loan from Leeds. But I wouldn't recall him. I wouldn't send him back to Leeds because we just like the more options, the better. And you never know what happens around the corner. Cabano's out injured, of course. So let's do a score prediction, Jack, for Leicester away.
I don't think we'll lose. Leicester, they're not particularly great at home. The King Power, they seem to lose a lot more than they do win. I think it'll be a very high-scoring game, to be honest with you. I think both teams will create chances and score goals. I wouldn't be shocked if it was another 2-2 or 3-2, to be perfectly honest with you. I think it'll be a very high-scoring game.
Wow. So which one? Desmond or slightly more than Desmond?
My head's saying a draw, my heart's saying a win. So we'll back Fulham. We'll go 3-2 Fulham.
I was gonna say Leicester 0, Fulham 0, and just a point, and we'll take it. But I actually have a sneaky suspicion we might nick it 1-0. Mitrovic, just 1-0 Mitrovic. Another clean sheet would be great. Obviously, we've got one at Palace. So the only goal we've conceded since the restart was a banging free kick from James Ward-Prowse. And guys, that's it. And spirits are high. Fulham are 7th in the league. We're on 25 points. If we get onto 28 points, suddenly we're gonna have to be checking those passports and saying are they renewed and are we ready to fly out? Obviously, tongue in cheek. We'll see what happens. Jack Stroudy, thank you so much for being here today.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Any final thoughts? Any final words you want to say before we go?
No, nothing really of no. Obviously, I think the only other thing we didn't touch on was the fact that Mitrovic missed another penalty.
Yeah.
That's probably the only thing that we didn't touch on. Marco Silva came out today in his press conference and said, he's still the penalty taker. Would I like to see somebody else like Pereira or William maybe have a go on penalties? Yes, but one, I wouldn't like to see him try and take the ball off of him when penalties are coming about. And two, he's got so much credit in the bank that it's in a weird way it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, look at like cult heroes of clubs over the years, like Rooney, Messi, Ronaldo. Like they all miss penalties, and Mitrovic has missed I think 5 now for Fulham. And I think I haven't checked the stats or anything, but I think Rooney must have missed, between that 3 or 5 penalties for Manchester United. Messi's missed a few. The players who are renowned to take penalties do miss penalties. I just don't think that Mitrovic is a very, very good penalty taker. He doesn't look confident. He doesn't look like he's going to smash it. Troy Deeney looks like he's going to score every penalty he takes because he's got a technique. And despite every goalkeeper knowing where he's going, the power is just too much. And so we'll see with Mitrovic. But I'm never, ever going to slag off Mitrovic. I think he is probably my favourite footballer of all time.
Yeah, I think that, he's got so much credit in the bank. And while, it's frustrating, obviously it didn't matter to the other day against Southampton, obviously. And looking while at the time it was a good result, in hindsight, dropping 2 against Wolves from penalty is moderately frustrating. But the amount of points he's gained us over the course of this season, last season, 2 seasons ago, Also 3 seasons ago under Scott Parker in the Championship, the amount of points that he's gained us, he's allowed a bit of leeway. And you say, yeah, he can't be perfect, but as I said, he doesn't strike me as a very confident penalty taker.
Yeah, you've just reminded me, actually, bringing up the Scott Parker's name. He is back in the managerial hot seat at Club Bruges, which is really funny because I said to Joe Sansom, or Joe Sansom said to me at the beginning of the season, imagine if Conte gets sacked and Scott Parker takes over at Spurs and wins in the Champions League. Well, Club Bruges are in the last 16 of the Champions League. There is a very slim, but it is possible that Scott Parker could win the Champions League this season with Club Bruges and Dennis Adoy. Incredible stuff. Your thoughts on that?
It's just weird. It didn't. If you could have given me 100 guesses on who's going to go to Club Bruges, Scott Parker wouldn't have been one of them. You know, he turned down the Norwich job as well to take on the Club Bruges. Which, to be honest, I'd probably take Club Bruges over Norwich. To be perfectly honest with you, but I think one of my funniest things on Twitter, there was a Club Bruges fan who posted out saying, you know, I don't know anything about Scott Parker. Can people let us know what we're in for? And by about 20 minutes after that tweet, he'd put out another one saying he doesn't want him in because Bournemouth and Fulham fans are just flooded, telling him he's just absolutely dreadful. And it just really made me laugh.
Wonder how many Chinese outlets there are in Bruges. We shall see. Thanks so much for watching today. If you haven't subscribed, please do, because we're almost at 5K and I'll keep banging the drum until we get there. Jack Stroudley, thank you so much.
Cheers, mate.
All right, everyone, take care. We'll see you up at Leicester if you're going. If not, have a pleasant start to your year and come on.